Sunshine this afternoon. That sunshine will turn into clear skies through the night, staying fairly overcast though for East Anglia and the southeast. Some rain and drizzle here for the evening rush hour, but elsewhere most places dry and clear, bar those showers getting into northwest Scotland. With the clear skies though, temperatures will be falling away. A colder night tonight than many of us have been used to. The rain and drizzle over eastern parts of England will slowly fizzle out through the evening, so generally becoming dry. A few more of those showers getting into western Scotland, maybe the odd one for Northern Ireland too, but many areas dry and clear. Might turn a bit misty through the night across southern counties of England, one or two fog patches, and certainly a colder night. And yes, there may even be some pockets of frost across parts of the south to start Saturday morning. A chilly start then, again, certainly compared to many mornings so far this month, but a bright, fine day for most of England and Wales tomorrow. There'll be some winter sunshine around. Mist and fog may take a few hours to clear in the south. For Scotland, though, as you can see, we are looking at more rain coming in, and that rain also slowly creeping its way into Northern Ireland. That rain likely to turn heavy and more persistent as we go through Saturday night and into Sunday, and push a little further south into parts of Wales too. Bye for now.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you so much for helping us to reach 8 million followers and subscribers across our social media channels. That's 8 million fearless Brits standing up for what really matters.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Currently, the M8 is experiencing a westbound restriction between junctions 13 and 14 due to an accident, so drivers should proceed with caution. Travellers will also encounter congestion on the A470 heading southbound between Nantgarv and Corriton, potentially causing significant travel delays. Furthermore, motorists on the M25 facing anti-clockwise are advised of severe delays between junctions 17 and 16. A collision has resulted in the closure of 3 out of the 4 lanes. Rail passengers should be aware that Avanti West Coast and cross-country services are facing disruptions in the Coventry area. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
The National Trust has come under fire after declining a Catholic filmmaker's request to shoot a documentary at St Cuthbert's Cave in Northumberland. St Cuthbert's Cave was a crucial location for the film, as it's traditionally believed to be where the saint's body rested in 875 before he was moved to Durham, where it remains today. The Trust justified its decision by citing the project's religious affiliation, sparking accusations that the heritage charity has breached equality laws and is engaging in illegal religious discrimination. Well, I'm joined now by the filmmaker at the centre of the story, Christian Holden. Christian, thank you for coming in. So, first of all, tell me about St Cuthbert. Why do we mind about St Cuthbert?
Well, St Cuthbert, this historical figure, this great figure of the northeast of England and the Scottish borders area, was renowned for his physical prowess, for his great night vigils. I approached the National Trust to ask permission to film there, and the initial response I had from them by email was that they didn't host any filming of a religious or political nature. I made a phone call to that particular person and explained more about what we hope to do, and that aside from its religious storyline, there's also historical value to it, cultural.
And so you were making the case that St Cuthbert was a cultural icon as well as a religious icon in the northeast of England, a very important political as well as religious figure in the consolidation of Christianity in the northeast.
It's such a critical part of our culture and our heritage, particularly in that area as well. So I was bewildered to be refused to visit and film this site of such importance on the basis of essentially being a Christian filmmaker.
GB News, the People's Channel.
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live, and they'll hear loads of questions being asked, and they'll be thinking, that's not my question. That's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and want to have an open discussion.
My name is Patrick Christies. I do a show for GB News in the UK.
Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GBNews, and that's what sets us apart.
Good morning, it's 9:30 a.m. on Friday the 12th of December. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
Well, 2 weeks ago, the Chancellor said this at her budget speech.
The benefits of investment and growth must be built and felt in every part of our United Kingdom.
But in breaking news this morning, the UK's economy contracted for the second month running in October. Labour are fixing those foundations, all right?
We are Russia's next target.
NATO chief Mark Rutte warns Europe to prepare for war with Russia as our armed forces minister says we need to stop relying on the United States for our defence. And speaking of America...
The European nations are reporting that your president might as well be the leader of the European nations also. They listen to us and they respect us like they've never respected us before.
Well, he doesn't lack confidence, does he? Would you want US President Donald Trump to lead Europe? He thinks he'd do a good job.
I certainly think it would be not a bad idea. Anyway, GBNews polling shows the public want violent, illegal migrants kicked out of the country to keep women safe. Have Brits finally had enough?
And superflu strikes Britain. The NHS is plunged into the worst-case scenario as the Health Secretary warns the service is in a precarious position.
Yes, confirmed cases and hospitalisations are all up across the board in England, Wales and in Scotland. Wes Streeting says a tidal wave of flu is crashing in to our hospitals. A terrible time for resident doctors to be considering going on strike.
And good luck if you want the experience of a lifetime and to see the World Cup final in America next year, because it's only going to set you back a small fortune of £3,000. Now, I don't know what you think, Miriam, and what you think at home, but I think a President Trump in Europe wouldn't be the worst idea. I mean, who have we got now? The EU have got Ursula von der Leyen. She's not even elected by the public, is she? I'd quite like to have him over here, sort this continent out a little bit. What do you think?
I'm not sure at all. I mean, I admire what Trump's doing in America. I think it's really interesting. But the whole purpose of the MAGA movement is to make a particular nation independent and sovereign and great again. I think we need that in Europe. I don't think we need foreign leaders, American imperialism, to come and tell us what to do. You're right, we need some better leaders. It's interesting to see Jordan Bardella, the potential French presidential runner, come across this week, speak to Nigel Farage. He's got some good ideas.
Yeah, I really like. Yeah, he's incredible, isn't he? I think he's going to do very, very well in that election. But I just think we need a bit of that Trumpian spirit, don't we? We need to I think a lot of Europeans feel that the continent is going downhill, particularly the European Union. And I saw there were some secret plans that the Americans are trying to pry away some countries from the EU, like Italy and others.
Hungary, Italy, Poland. Well, indeed. And you look at some of our Western European leaders, and they have completely got their heads in the sand. They keep saying, Ukraine must win the war, but then no one's willing to put troops on the ground. I mean, we're not willing to give them enough to win the war, but they're just carrying on saying the same stuff for 4 years.
What do you think? gbnews.com/Your Say. We read some of your thoughts out throughout the show. But before we get stuck in, here's your 60-second news update with Lewis Mackenzie.
Good morning. The headlines from the GB Newsroom. The Office for National Statistics reveals the economy shrank by 0.1% this October, while economists had been expecting it to grow. Wes Streeting says a surge in the so-called superflu cases will present the NHS with a challenge unlike any since the pandemic. The number of patients in hospital with influenza has risen more than 50% in the past week. The head of NATO, Mark Rutte, says Europe must prepare for war with Russia, urging member states to boost defence spending. He says Europe could face a conflict on the scale of war our grandparents and great-grandparents endured.
We are Russia's next target. And we are already in harm's way.
And as you've just been hearing, anyone hoping to attend next year's World Cup final will need to start saving now, with the cheapest tickets costing more than £3,000, meaning it will cost more than £5,000 to follow your team all the way to the final. Well, those are your latest headlines for now. More from me in half an hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Britain's Newsroom, live across the United Kingdom on GB News with me, Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
Well, the UK's economy unexpectedly shrank in October. The Office for National Statistics says the economy contracted by 0.1%. But economists had actually been expecting growth. And Alex, if you look in the figures, it is very concerning because services have flatlined, but construction and production have actually gone down, and that is often an indicator that we're about to go into recession.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, unfortunately, the British public have been bracing themselves for that word recession for a very, very long time. And, again, this is before the budget, of course.
Yeah.
Let's see what confidence is like following the disaster that was the budget that just came out a few weeks ago and all the leaks leading up to it. No wonder why even back then, before October, people were feeling negative. I can guarantee you, I'll put money on it that it goes down even further for the months following it leading up to that budget.
That's right. I mean, some economists are blaming that period of speculation for the downturn because people weren't spending money, they weren't buying houses, they were not sure what to do about their pensions and mortgages and things like that. But as you say, is the budget the vote of confidence that will actually spark spending again? One interesting fact is about the Jaguar Land Rover car plant, because, of course, that was hit by a massive cyber attack. That downturn in their production made a huge impact negatively, but it's back up to speed now, and it hasn't made enough of a difference to push us into growth. So very concerning.
Big problems when you've got net zero and all these other things eating up all these companies' money, where the energy prices are so high. It's just a disaster, isn't it? It's a disaster, and we really need to do something, turn this around, have some radical thoughts on the economy, because I think otherwise we are going to be the sick man of Europe very quickly.
And what's even more worrying is that we know that net immigration is still pretty high. I mean, it has fallen, but it's way higher than historic levels. So you would expect that if everything else remained equal, with that kind of level of immigration, the economy should grow, not per capita, not real growth, but it should be growing on paper. The fact that it isn't, even with that amount of immigration, it is much more concerning even than the figures show.
Indeed. All right, well, joining us now is Head of Policy at Reform UK, Zia Youssef. Zia, thank you very much for joining us this morning. What's your reaction to the shrinking British economy?
Good morning. Well, it's been framed as a surprise, but it really isn't a surprise. If you observe how this Labour government have been running the economy, there are a bunch of incompetents who, in the entire cabinet, no one has any experience of creating value in the economy, growing an economy, making decisions in the private sector. They're basically continuing what the Tories did for 14 years, endless deficits, lots of borrowing, debt going up, endless increases in the size of the state and state spending, and then a big deficit, a quote black hole. How do you fund that black hole? You raise taxes on the people watching this programme, the contributors and the grafters, who are then disincentivized to do it. And now, to compound matters, we've also had a continuation of instability. Miriam was just making the point about, if you look in the detail of that 0.1%, which kind of might sound abstract and boring, the first point I would make is that we've now only had growth in the economy in one of the last 7 months in this country. The population explosion does continue. It's still hundreds of thousands in terms of net immigration, which means GDP per capita, which we think is the only stat that matters from a GDP perspective. How wealthy is each person in the country getting? Well, actually, they continue to get poorer. There's been huge political instability. Most people in the business world think Rachel Reeves has already delivered her last budget. Obviously, the Tories had 3 chancellors in, I think it was 3.5 months, 6 prime ministers in 8 years. There's even more instability now, or just as much at least, least with Keir Starmer. And what that means is if you're an international capital allocator or even a business here in the UK, as Miriam said, you're going to hold back on making really important long cycle investment decisions. So that means those jobs don't get created. And the final point I want to make is that Rachel Reeves appears to be absolutely flabbergasted that she has made employing people more expensive by increasing the national insurance contribution of an employer by 2% and making it more risky by bringing in, what we term the unemployment rights bill, and seems to be shocked that businesses are going to employ fewer people. We have unemployment in this country at multi-year highs. Youth unemployment, as was reported in the Telegraph yesterday, growing at the fastest rate in the G7. So I'm sorry, the whole thing is a disaster. The only way we get out of this doom loop is to do the opposite of what's been happening, reduce state spending and allow contributors, people, like the ones watching this program, people who go to work, to keep more of their wages.
Now, one of the particularly concerning trends that we're seeing is a downturn in construction, which often precedes quite deep-seated recessions. The last government talked the talk about building more housing. This government's talking the talk about building more housing. Neither have succeeded. In fact, we've seen a contraction in house building in the last year. What would reform do differently? How would you overcome the very real obstacles that we have in this country to building the millions of new homes that we need, not only for young people to buy, but also just to stimulate our economy?
Yeah, here's what we would do. So number one, we'd have a total legislative reset. At the moment, you have a situation in this country where, number one, he or she who can injunct a process, put a spanner in the works, gets to stop the whole production line for anything, whether that's a nuclear power plant and somebody who's concerned about fish and wants to spend £250,000 per fish on that project, whether it's home building. It's the same story. Number two, we need to change how these quangos work. We cannot have situations where people at DEFRA, unaccountable to the electorate because they're quasi-autonomous, they basically are autonomous, totally unaccountable to ministers and the people who voters put into office to make these decisions, being able to stop these things from happening. So yes, of course, we want to protect the environment, but that is ultimately up to ministers and politicians to make those decisions. So we get to the efficient frontier and British people actually get things. I mean, look at other countries, Miriam. Look at what Dubai is building. Look at what China is building. Look at what France is building. We are being put to shame by almost every developed country in the world. And the only way we solve that is a total legislative reset and disempowering the quangos.
Do you think the major house builders also need breaking up? Because the situation we have is 2 or 3 major house builders that completely control the release of housing onto the market. It's not in their interests to flood the market because obviously prices will fall. Do you think that needs looking at?
Not until we actually sort what I think is the primary factor. And look, I broadly, my view is when I talk to these home builders, they actually want to build homes, Miriam. They actually do want to build homes. And when you look into why some of these big projects are just not getting off the ground, it's because they have to interact with 4 or 5 different government departments on different processes. One was giving me an anecdote, by the way, a really big brownfield project they were trying to get up and running. They spent a year and a half going through all of the approvals, including DEFRA, and then all of a sudden they were told, oh, you've got to have a GP surgery in there as well. So they had to go to the NHS, delayed it by another year. Just when they finally got the specification of the GP surgery, they were told right at the 11th hour, oh, we've changed it now, you'll wait and you'll hear back from us. Obviously, during that entire time, they've had to pay for the option value of the land, and British people, particularly young people, Miriam, are being totally betrayed here. Most of them, a greater proportion of young people in this country are not even moving out of their parents' homes because they can't even rent a place at the moment. That's partly because of obviously the population explosion, which people watching this show will be familiar with. It is also because of problems like that. So look, we can look at competition issues. From what I can tell, this is a regulatory issue and a lack of political will.
Zia, you had 3 big council election wins. That's been a trend over the last year for Reform UK. If you got into office, you're facing down potentially quite a lot here. You're talking about civil service reform, House of Lords reform. You won't have any political experience unless you bring some Tories into the fold. How on earth are you going to tackle all these things on top of a failing economy?
We'll start preparing early, which we've already done, years out from a general election, and we've already begun that preparation. Look, no one says this is going to be easy. The differential relative to anyone else who's tried it is, A, we have a political leader. We'll have a Prime Minister, Nigel Farage, who not only believes in this, but I can tell you will go to the wall on these issues. We will have 350 to 400 MPs. That's obviously what we're aiming for, who will vote this stuff through. And yes, we'll be prepared with thousands of pages of legislation ready to go on day one. And importantly, put what we plan to do in our manifesto so that the British people will give us a mandate to do those things. So those institutions that try to stand in the way, we will have the moral high ground in saying you are standing in the way of the will of the British people. In terms of experience, we've already got Danny Kruger, who's leading that preparation for government work. People don't hear from Danny as much as perhaps other people in Reform. I can tell you he's super busy behind the scenes working on all of that stuff. So look, we are clear-eyed about how challenging it's going to be. We have to basically undo 15, 18 years of constitutional vandalism in the space of a few years, but we are up for that challenge and we're confident we'll succeed.
One other question is here, because at the moment we're talking about the economy, but you don't have a spokesman, at least, for the economy yet. You don't have a shadow chancellor. When will we hear who your front bench team might be in the coming years? When will we expect to hear from you on that?
Yeah, as Nigel has said, we are in talent acquisition mode at the moment. I mean, it's not just Shadow Chancellor. There's any number of ministries and the highest officers of the land that Nigel has not yet named. The British people will, of course, expect to see who those people are prior to a general election. I think you should expect that much closer to a general election. I mean, look, we're trying to... One of the symptoms, one of the big problems the country has had is also a competence deficit, right? You know, we've had Matt Hancock as the health secretary in this country during the greatest health emergency since World War II. We have Rachel Reeves as a chancellor. We have Ed Miliband as our energy secretary. I defy you to find anyone in the country worse suited to sit in those positions. So we have a competence deficit. We want to reverse all of that. We want to bring the very best people in the country with immense track records of...
What job are you going to do, Zia? What job are you going to do?
Well, that'll be a decision for Nigel much closer to the general election. I'll serve, if Nigel wants me to serve, I'll serve in whatever role he wants. But on a serious point, I don't think this right now is... I think the British people, when you talk to voters, they understand that if you want to have the best possible team, and we are talking some exceptional people. I think people will be very surprised about some of the people, particularly from the private sector, who would be willing to serve in a Nigel Farage cabinet. You know, really, I would call it galactic level talent, names that would stand proud on the world stage. If you want to do that, those people are only, frankly, going to stick their heads above the parapet much closer to a general election, which is why it makes sense for Nigel to reserve his position.
Just one final question, if I may. You've talked about the welfare state being a runaway train to which the whole economy is attached. I think more and more people are coming to the conclusion that we have to cut welfare spending, but you're now attracting a lot of ex-Labour voters who might be a lot keener on a big state, on a welfare model. How are you going to please everybody with your new coalition?
No, so I think, look, I spent quite a lot of time looking at that sort of detail. I mean, to the degree there's been former Labour voters who've come over, Miriam, as you'll know, a lot of those are Red Wall voters. And, you know, those Red Wall voters set their alarm clocks and rise early and go to work and they graft. And so I don't think there's any inconsistency there whatsoever. Nigel's actually been very consistent on this. Nigel's on the side of people who set their alarm clocks. There are some roles that the state needs to take up. For example, we did put pressure on the government to nationalise British Steel because the country came within hours of losing its ability to produce steel, you know, in our country, which would be the most unfathomable national security risk at a time when China's producing more than ever and actually owned British Steel. What does that tell you, right? We've had politicians, frankly, who have been taken for mugs and allowed Britain to be taken for mugs by foreign powers like China.
Okay.
And sadly, that's continuing under this Labour government. So in certain instances, yes, we need the state to step in, but it is clear welfare spending is far too high. We've already laid out £9 billion of cuts by 2029 just in the form of PIP disability payments, and there's a lot more to come.
OK, Zia, but quickly before you go, George has written into us and said, Zia for Prime Minister, perhaps a job maybe in the future, young man, want the top job one day, Zia?
I'm focused at the moment on May the 1st elections, so let's get that out of the way.
All right, good stuff. Thank you very much for joining us. Head of Policy Reform UK, Zia Youssef. Still ahead.
Pub bosses are petrified as they demand urgent tax relief to stop mass closures and save thousands of jobs after last month's budget. But up next...
A surge in superflu cases plunges the NHS into the worst-case scenario. Isn't it the same every winter, though?
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
After some recent downpours, the eastern Mediterranean is turning a lot drier and brighter through the weekend. Meanwhile, off the west coast of Africa, some rain will be drifting southwards, so it could be quite showery in the Canaries on Saturday. Some showers also likely over the Balearics, particularly for Ibiza. Largely fine for Italy, and some sunshine returning to Greece, although with the breeze coming down from the north, it'll stay fairly cool here. We should see the sunny skies returning to Tenerife through Sunday and Monday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
But this is story. It's one of these stories. I love these flags, don't you? Doesn't everybody love our flag? Isn't it a wonderful, bright, brilliant, colourful representation of this wonderful, most of the time, country we live in? Or not? Certainly not in Scarborough, evidently, because a Scarborough businessman says he has been left disgusted after being fined more than £2,300 for erecting England and Union flags in North Yorkshire. William Haylett used his cherry-picking, see on your screen there, his cherry-picking vans, which are normally used for high-level property maintenance, to string up flags across the town, along with tying England and Union flags to lampposts across Filey and Whitby. Sounds great to me. Or is it? We've seen this pretty much all summer, haven't we, where councils have taken down flags. These flags, these lovely, bright, colourful ones, but many councils have left flags of other countries up, in particular the Palestine one.
You know, our town's just been down and depressed for, a couple of years now, and it's upsetting to see, local people, struggling and all that lot, and just down and depressed.
What reaction have you got from the local community, from people living where you've been putting your flags up?
Oh, it's just absolutely, everyone's just they're just giving up. Do you know what I mean? Seriously giving up. And what it is, I've got to root. I've been out every night, digging deep into root at community, and it's just like we've been failed through every system going, and now we've just had enough, man. Do you know what I mean? It's upsetting, it makes me, makes me really upset.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Okwir, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 8 minutes to 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, cases of superflu are continuing to rise, with the NHS warning it's the worst-case scenario, especially with resident doctors potentially striking next week too.
Well, we can go live to Glasgow Royal Infirmary and speak to GB News' Scotland reporter, Tony Maguire. Tony, what's the story in Glasgow? Is the hospital filling up with flu patients?
Yeah, good morning, Miriam and Alex. It's very much that case. Now, Wes Streeting has said that a tidal wave of flu is tearing through our hospitals, and that is true in England, Wales and here in Scotland. Now, I would say the most startling number that's come out of the figures that dropped yesterday was 55% increase in the number of hospitalisations as a result of the flu in England and Wales. Now, here in Scotland, we've had a 24% week-on-week increase, so these numbers are are massive, but the most concerning part came from our Health Secretary Neil Gray. He made the point that actually the most kind of the period where there's the most contact and the most spreading of influenza comes over the Christmas period, of course, when we all see our loved ones. So actually this spike has come remarkably early. Now, hospitals up here in Scotland, they're all taking slightly different approaches to their mask mandates, many of them demanding it of their staff, while there's a mixed response to patients. But otherwise, there is an incredible amount of scrutiny on hospitals to catch this and to try and get control before things get any more out of control.
Tony, thank you very much for that report. Tony there in Glasgow. Well, coming up next.
Donald Trump claims some European leaders want him to take power across the Atlantic. Would you want that? Maybe we need a bit of Trump here in Britain. Find out next on Britain's Newsroom. We'll see you very shortly.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A grey day for a large part of England, but elsewhere we should see some spells of sunshine, a few showers into northwest Scotland, particularly this afternoon. Now, we do start fairly dull in this zone. There's a line of rain and drizzle from northeast England down across the Midlands into East Wales and parts of central southern England. That's moving away, so parts of Wales turning a bit brighter. Good spells of sunshine for Northern Ireland and much of Scotland. As I mentioned, a few showers in the far northwest. Some of that patchy rain getting to Lincolnshire down to the home counties by the afternoon. Still quite mild here. Elsewhere, temperatures close to average, 7 to 10 degrees, but probably feeling a bit fresher than recent days. But at least there should be quite a bit of sunshine this afternoon. That sunshine will turn into clear skies through the night. Staying fairly overcast, though, for East Anglia and the southeast. Some rain and drizzle here for the evening rush hour, but elsewhere, most places dry and clear, bar those showers getting into northwest Scotland. With the clear skies, though, temperatures will be falling away. A colder night tonight than many of us have been used to. The rain and drizzle over eastern parts of England will slowly fizzle out through the evening, so generally becoming dry. A few more of those showers getting into western Scotland, maybe the odd one for Northern Ireland too, but many areas dry and clear. Might turn a bit misty through the night across southern counties of England, one or two fog patches, and certainly a colder night. And yes, there may even be some pockets of frost across parts of the south to start Saturday morning. A chilly start then, again, certainly compared to many mornings so far this month, but a bright, fine day for most of England and Wales tomorrow. There'll be some winter sunshine around. Mist and fog may take a few hours to clear in the south. For Scotland, though, as you can see, we are looking at more rain coming in, and that rain also slowly creeping its way into Northern Ireland. That rain likely to turn heavy and more persistent as we go through Saturday night and into Sunday, and push a little further south into parts of Wales too. Bye for now.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for sharing over 5 million comments on your say. Because when you talk, we listen.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Avoid the northbound A1M in North Yorkshire at junction 56, where a broken down vehicle is blocking the exit slip, closing all lanes. Meanwhile, in Hertfordshire, a road traffic collision has closed 3 of 4 lanes on the M25 anti-clockwise between junction 17 and junction 16, with delays of 1.5 hours. On the M4 eastbound in Wiltshire, a vehicle fire has closed 1 lane between junctions. Please anticipate normal traffic conditions by late morning. And on the trains, there are disruptions on the East Midlands Railway between Norwich and Ely, as well as on the Elizabeth line between London Paddington and Heathrow Airport. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Friday the 12th of December. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
Well, 2 weeks ago, the Chancellor said this about the budget.
Benefits of investment and growth must be built and felt in every part of our United Kingdom.
And breaking this morning, the UK's economy contracted for the second month running in October. Is the word recession going to get flown around a lot today? I think it might be.
We are Russia's next target. And we are...
Well, that's the NATO chief, Mark Rutte, who's warned Europe to prepare for war with Russia. As our Armed Forces Minister says, we need to stop relying on the US for our defence.
We can't rely on America to look after it. It's up to us now, but where do we find the money with a flatlining economy?
The European nations are reporting that your president might as well be the leader of the European nations also. They listen to us and they respect us like they've never respected us before.
And would you want United States President Donald Trump to lead Europe? He thinks he'd do a good job.
And exclusive GB New polling shows the public want violent illegal migrants kicked out of the country to keep women safe. Have Brits finally had enough?
Well, good luck if you want the experience of a lifetime to see the World Cup final in America next year, because it's going to set you back at least £3,000.
I know people 2 generations older than me that have fished this lake, and yeah, I really want to get it back.
Well, it's good news for fisherman James Duffy, as a district council in Derbyshire looks set to U-turn on their decision to ban fishing at what's been a popular fishing spot since World War II. Apparently, it's all about biodiversity.
What do you think? Donald Trump for President of Europe. That would terrify many people. I think that we need a little bit of that. We need someone to... I don't think it would ever be Donald Trump, of course, but we need somebody who's going to fight the lefties and the sort of the EU bureaucracy, their establishment mindset. And I think Donald Trump is a good person to follow suit.
I'm not saying he's not somebody we should look to and learn from, but if you're against the EU on the basis that you don't like this kind of imperialism where all countries have to follow one particular track. Well, America is also being imperialistic here. You know, they want to spread their influence across the West for their own interests, and they're doing it ruthlessly. Why shouldn't they? They're putting their national interest first. Yeah. But their national interest is not our national interest, and I think we're foolish to think it is.
But you know, the thing is, Miriam, they've been spreading their influence for a very, very long time, arguably since World War II. But I think we've had the bad version of that American imperialism for the last 20 years, and what we need is a right-leaning, because most right-leaning right-leaning American presidents, at least, have been quite liberal these days, but we need someone on the right, a conservative American that's going to come and bring us back, a bit like Reagan and Thatcher. I thought that was the best version of our relationship.
I think we need somebody like Trump to embolden Europe to have better strategies on things like immigration and the economy. I agree with that, but I think we shouldn't be blind to what America's trying to do, particularly, let's say, with its big tech corporates. If you think how our culture has been eroded over the last 20 years, it's not just about immigration, that's part of it, but also it's by the fact that our high streets are just owned by American firms. Everything we do on tech, all the money, every time we spend money through Apple Pay, all that money leaves our country and goes to America. We're basically owned by America. You know, lots of our cultural drift is because of Americanization, not just because of other forces. I think we should have our eyes wide open to that.
Well, there we go. What do you think? gbnews.com/your say. But before we get stuck in to all these big hot news stories and debates, here's the news with Lewis Mackenzie.
Alex, Miriam, good morning. It's just after 10 o'clock. Here are your latest GB News headlines. The UK's economy unexpectedly shrank in October. The Office for National Statistics says the economy contracted by 0.1%, while economists had been expecting it to grow by 0.1%. The ONS also added that over the 3 months to the end of October, the economy also shrank by 0.1% as manufacturing output fell and service growth stalled. West Streeting says a surge in so-called superflu cases will present the NHS with a challenge unlike any it has seen since the pandemic. The Health Secretary says the NHS was in a precarious situation and warned that weeks' planned strikes by resident doctors could be the Jenga piece that collapses the tower. The number of patients in hospital with influenza has risen more than 50% in the past week, with officials warning there is still no sign of superflu peaking just yet. The head of NATO says Europe must prepare for war with Russia. Mark Rutte urged member states to boost defence spending, saying Europe is Vladimir Putin's next target, and the continent could face a conflict on a scale of war our grandparents and great-grandparents endured. He made the comments in Berlin as efforts to secure a peace deal for Ukraine remain unsolved.
We are Russia's next target. And we are already in harm's way. I fear that too many are quietly complacent. Too many don't feel the urgency. And too many believe that time is on our side. It is not.
The Trump administration reportedly wants to convince 4 European nations to follow Britain's lead and leave the EU. American outlet Defense One says leaked classified documents show Donald Trump wants Austria, Hungary, Italy and Poland to follow Britain out of the bloc. The document also proposed a new C5 forum, bringing together the US, China, India, Japan and Russia as a potential rival to the G7. A £20,000 reward has been offered to catch the killer of a grandmother in Liverpool. Rose Johnson was found dead in her home in Dovecot, suffering a blunt force head injury. Merseyside police and Crime Stoppers are appealing for anyone with information to come forward, with detectives urging people to speak up to help bring her family answers. Half of UK secondary school pupils have avoided going to school over the past year due to anxiety. A survey of 2,000 students found nearly 50% missed school at least once last academic year because they felt anxious, with some skipping weekly or every couple of weeks. Experts warn the figures highlight growing mental health pressures on teenagers and the need for better support in schools. Now, anyone hoping to attend next year's World Cup final will need to start saving now, with the cheapest tickets costing more than £3,000. The lowest price for any England game will be around £165, more than 3 times as much as it was in Qatar. Group matches will be priced according to the perceived popularity of the teams. It will cost more than £5,000 to follow your team all the way to the final. One fan group has called it a monumental betrayal of the tradition of the World Cup. And finally, King Charles has recorded a personal message about his experience of cancer, which will be broadcast in this evening's Stand Up to Cancer.
We are rolling. I'll count you in.
The King will talk about his recovery journey as a cancer patient in a video message broadcast this evening. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Lewis Mackenzie. More from me in half an hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello and welcome back. This is Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Alex and Miriam.
Well, we'd love to know what you think about all the different debates we're having this morning. So send your views and post your comments to gbnews.com/your say. And I think a few of you have already been getting in touch.
I've got one here from DG. He says, if we're half owned by America, then the other half is Chinese. And there is a question, I think, isn't there? Because whatever happens, we aren't a superpower anymore, and we're always going to be drawn between 2 superpowers. Who would you prefer, the Chinese or the Americans?
I prefer that Britain had a little bit more independence.
I would. I would certainly like that.
We're never going to be totally independent. We're a smallish country. We're an island. We've always been a trading nation. We used to trade with our own empire and our own Commonwealth. And the reason, do you know why the reason that stopped? Is because the Americans made it conditional, their help in the war conditional on us giving up our rights to trade with our empire. Everybody thinks that they have our best interests at heart. I am not convinced.
Yeah, well, I'm a realist.
I agree they're more benign than the Chinese.
The nation state always looks after itself first, doesn't it, Chris?
And America is too. They are now worried about China in a way they weren't in the old days, and that's what's happening with Ukraine. Donald Trump is thinking, why should I worry about Ukraine? I've got my western flank with the pressure from China there in the Pacific is a problem. I've got to think about that as much as Europe. And he's saying to Europe, get on with it. Look after yourselves. Why should I be your guarantor? We can be at the background, but really step up. You're well off as countries. You should do it. I mean, we heard from Karen Leavitt, his spokesman, saying this. Trump is extremely frustrated with both sides of the war. For me, I look at the US, it feels like it's like the early 1930s, by which I mean isolationism. America's saying, why should we spend more effort on keeping Europe safe when we've got our own problems here? That was, of course, after the 29 crash created that idea. We're not saying, Nazis and all that kind of thing, but the US piece about isolationism is where we are, I think, with America.
But the difference between now and the 30s, I mean, there are many parallels, but the difference is that even by the mid-30s, Britain had started to ramp up defence spending. It's already about 5% of GDP, because the government could see the war coming. And, of course, Chamberlain was much criticised for his appeasement in 1938, but despite the appeasement, he went back home and he said, right, we need to rearm. That's what we're not doing.
We can't afford to. I mean, we'll come on to the economy later with Catherine Forster, but there's a problem here with the flatlining economy. It means where do we find the money to spend 0.35% of our GDP, billions of pounds on weaponry? And looking back here, we ordered 12 F-35A stealth jets in the summer. They were able to carry nuclear warheads. But Al Kant, who's this well, you could almost call him a war minister, but not quite a war minister, but a defence minister. He says we'd be dependent on US guarantees for 60 years. Is in the past we've outsourced our security to the US. We need to up our game on defence spending, but where's the money going to come from?
Yeah, well, you can only spend when you've got growth, and that's just as we've seen today. The economy isn't growing at all, and it doesn't look like it's going to get much better. What is it? Only 1/4 of growth over the last year or so. Chris, let me ask you this. I think Donald Trump is right to be concerned about China. There was leaked reports the other day to say that America would lose a war over Taiwan, particularly as it would be fighting quite far away in the Pacific. Do we need to step up? And if so, who needs to step up in Europe to lead the continent? Because at the end of the day, all these disparate leaders, we've seen this coalition of the willing, which has been more like the coalition of the useless, if you want my opinion on it. They haven't done anything.
It takes time, Alex, to build this coalition.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, Chris. I mean, they've done nothing. Yeah, well, this is what it is, isn't it? And unfortunately, what I'm getting at is there need to be a refresher of what happened with NATO? Do we need a new European alliance on this? Not a European Union alliance. We do need a European security alliance.
That's what France want. France want to have a form of EU army. I think that's where we would result from as a country. We're part of Europe. 30 members of this coalition of the willing, which is trying to pull it together, met last night virtually. The Belgian PM is in number 10 today. Big issue is 140 billion euros of Russian assets, mainly in Belgium for some reason. That's where the main focus of the Russian assets is in Europe. We want to try and unfreeze that and give it to Ukraine. So that's why he's there. On Monday, we're seeing Keir Starmer fly to Berlin for more talks with European leaders. There's a European Council meeting next week. We're part of that, but that's an EU issue. But it's really, I think behind the scenes, I'm told, things are moving very fast. Ukraine have now got their version of the peace plan. That's back in Washington. The key area to focus on for viewers and listeners is the Donbass region. 15% is controlled by Ukraine, the rest by Russia. What happens to that area is so important. That will probably look like becoming a DMZ, a demilitarized zone, an economic zone where neither country is involved. That could be where we end up with some form of peace deal. But Russia hasn't approved it yet. We know there's been lots of toing and froing, but we do hope we can get towards maybe peace by Christmas. A Christmas truce.
Oh, we've heard that all before.
We're nowhere near it yet,
but they'll be home by Christmas, Chris. I've heard it all before.
That won't happen, Alex.
Yeah, I hold my breath also. Well, joining us now is a former Conservative MP, Sir John Redwood. It's been a big week for Sir John. John, I'll start off by just carrying the conversation on about war. We're hearing a lot of war.
We should congratulate him.
Yeah, so I wanted to get to that. I wanted to get to that next.
Sorry.
I want to make a moment of it. But
sorry, Alex.
Yeah, thanks, Miriam. Sir John, I just want to ask you about your opinion. Do you think we're heading to a war with Russia? Is it inevitable, or is this a lot of banging the drum of war, so to speak?
Well, it's very important that we don't. And I think President Trump is right to say that NATO should not go into a war with Russia, and that there does need to be a negotiated settlement of the Russia war with Ukraine. Now, obviously, I agree that Russia invaded cruelly and has perpetrated all sorts of unpleasant attacks upon the Ukrainian people without provocation. But I do think Trump is right. I don't think we want to turn this into a NATO-Russia conflagration. And what he has done is say to the European members of NATO, well, if you really want to escalate this, you've got to escalate it, because I, America, have no wish to end up in a war with Russia. And that has revealed how little military substance there is on the continent of Europe. And it has left the EU in considerable difficulties.
It does seem that all the EU has in terms of supporting Ukraine is ambition. And of course, there has been some quite considerable amount of aid and weapons donated over the past few years, but nowhere near enough to give Zelensky the victory. Do you think European leaders have just got their head in the sand over this issue?
Yes, I do. I think the EU has been very cruel to Ukraine because it's relied on America to supply the real force and quite a lot of the money. It's always been too little too late from the Europeans, so they've never given the overwhelming force or the big financial reassurance which might have tipped the balance and allowed Ukraine to recapture lost territory. So Ukraine is in the position where a chunk of its country has already been annexed, and Russia, sensing the weakness of the EU and the unwillingness of the continental countries to make a proper military contribution, has therefore upped his bidding, making it extremely difficult to get a peace agreement that anybody can accept. So it's a genuine tragedy, but it's been brought about by the attitude of the EU powers, who have a vital interest in this because they want Ukraine to become an EU member and are wanting to have much more influence over the Ukraine government. but they won't pay up, and they won't give the military clout that it requires.
Well, there we go. Let me introduce our GB News political editor, Christopher Hope. Would like to ask you a question, Sir John.
Sir John Redwood, or Lord Redwood, as we'll call you very shortly. What's your take on the economy? It's grown by just 1 month in the past 7 months. It's shrunk again in October. How near are we to recession, and what should the government do?
Well, I fear that the forecasts of myself and others saying that we were going to have slow growth or no growth are coming true, and it was inevitable. The economy is in a much weaker state than it should be, thanks to 2 very damaging budgets and an economic policy which is clearly wrongly based. It's a very simple problem. The government is spending too much and borrowing too much. And it's even simpler than that, because it isn't that they've got to make hard choices and take money away from the disabled or reduce the number of doctors or anything dreadful like that. They've got to stop wasting, and they've got to stop spending money on priorities that they have but the British people don't share. And we don't want them wasting money on giving the Chagos Islands away. We don't want them spending all this money on hotel accommodation for people who shouldn't be here. We're urging them to take tougher measures to stop the people coming, and then we would have a big cash saving. And we don't want an ever-expanding benefits bill, because they're overtaxing jobs and making it very difficult for employers. So we got more people on benefits instead of in work. And we don't want them inviting hundreds of thousands of people legally to come to take low-paid jobs when we've got unemployed people in Britain, and we need to work with them to take those jobs.
Now, Sir John, I've already stolen Alex's thunder, so I'm going to do it again and say a huge congratulations to you on your peerage. You'll soon be entering the House of Lords, and you've had an incredibly long career in politics. I believe you started working with Margaret Thatcher back in the 1980s. What are your best memories, I suppose, from that time?
It was the 1970s.
1970s, I apologise.
I started at the age of 22 on all this, yes. So it's been a long haul.
And thinking back to that time, what were your best memories of that time? You know, how did the politics of then give rise to what we're seeing today, 50 years later?
Well, I mean, I think the lessons from the way Margaret Thatcher led the government and the country are very simple, that she didn't believe in wasteful spending. She had far fewer staff helping her, and she made sure that those of us who were helping her worked hard and were always pointing in the right direction. And it was a privilege to work for her. I had plenty of access to her. She was very responsive, as long as you had convincing facts and could demonstrate that the course of action you were recommending was sensible. She would subject it to a lot of scrutiny, and then once she decided to do it, Whitehall knew that that was then going to happen. No U-turns with Margaret Thatcher. And that is what this Prime Minister needs to learn from. Fewer people, trust them, make up your mind, and then stick with it. And please, Prime Minister, listen to people who know how to grow this economy, because you and your ministers are undermining all growth, and meaning that we've got a mass exodus of talent from this country, a lot of money going out of the country, a lot of overseas investors saying this is not the place for us. We can change all that, and it's desperately important they do so urgently.
So, John, just before you go, Miriam had an interesting idea the other day. She proposed that you may serve as Chancellor in the Lords if Labour were so bold. Yes or no, would you do it if they asked you?
Well, I'd love to do it, but I don't think doing it from the House of Lords, I'm afraid, is at all practical. The Commons is rightly the sovereign chamber, and it controls the money. The trouble is, at the moment, it's not controlling the money properly.
No, indeed. Sir John, soon to be Lord Redwood, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And I believe the last Chancellor to serve from the House of Lords, it was 300 years ago. So I think we should revive the tradition.
Yeah, bring it back.
Foreign
Why
Secretary
not?
from the House of Lords, didn't we, in the last Parliament?
I think anything will be welcome change at this point in time. Right, time now for the Great British Giveaway. It's your chance to win our biggest cash prize of the year, an incredible 85 grand. Here's all the details.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to splash on anything you can dream of. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. £85,000 is the biggest cash prize we've ever given away. It's totally tax-free, which means the that every single penny of it will be yours. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, up next, find out why Energy Secretary Ed Miliband's stance on petrol cars may have left him isolated from his beloved European Union.
Well, we'll be going through that and more with a petrol head, Dr. Renee Honderkamp, and the fully charged electric vehicle lover, Andy Williams. Britain's Newsroom and GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm not so concerned about the very highly paid public officials like Sadiq Khan, but even he is paying nearly £20,000 a year into his own pension. So it's quite right that he should get the appropriate pension on his retirement. But who I'm more concerned about are the 16,000 local councillors up and down the country. They work an average of 22 hours a week. Some of them, about 1 in 8, work more than 35 hours a week serving their local communities. They don't get paid a wage, but they do get an allowance. And it's only about £7,000 a year on average. But in some local authorities, they only get an allowance of £3,000 a year. Now that seems very small reward for they're in charge of the hundreds of millions of pounds of local budgets to provide council services, from libraries to parks to elderly care homes. I think it's fair they get a decent pension.
Being a councillor isn't a full-time job. As you said, it's 22 hours a week. It's not a full-time job. Most people work 40 hours a week, and they won't get a pension, an inflation-busting, gold-plated pension. It just feels very, very unfair when a time when we're being asked all working people to contribute more.
Some councillors do not do a very good job, but those councillors, it's up to the local voters to vote them out. But I want to say that I know quite a few local councillors in different parts of the country, and all the ones I know, they work very, very hard, and they do a full-time job, paid job. They do a job, you know, which gets them employment, but they do their council work on top of that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. It's coming up for 10:30. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Alex and Miriam.
We're joined by GP and broadcaster Dr. Renee Honderkamp and political commentator Andy Williams in the studio. Right, who wants to kick us off with the Energy and Net Zero Secretary? Andy, would you like to start?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So this is about the possibility of Ed Miliband rowing back on plans to sort of ultimately ban petrol and diesel cars. Like, I know you said electric car lover. I don't drive, actually, for a start.
That's like such an electric car thing to say.
It really does. I'm so virtuous I don't even have a car.
I don't even have a car. No, I just couldn't be bothered to learn. But no, what I think is really important here is not about whether we're banning cars, but I do think it would be good if fewer people drove, and people who do drive drove less. Now, I get that if you live outside of London or outside of a big city, you have to. So I'm not for some kind of really radical, widespread ban. But what we actually need to do is invest in public transport. People don't use public transport as much as they should because it's rubbish. It's expensive and it's unreliable. Our trains are more expensive than pretty much any European country. They don't work, they're late, the buses are terrible, and I know it would take a generation to sort it out, but we need to invest in that, not in cars.
Do you think we have less people driving?
No, I absolutely don't, and I think it should be choice as well. I hate this dictation, you will not do this. Look, what you forget, Andy, is the burden of childcare, whether you like it or not, still falls on women.
Absolutely.
And when you have to shepherd around feral young animals and go to work and do the shopping and everything else, whether you live in London or not, a car is essential. I could not cope without my car, and I live in London. I'm a 20-minute walk from the nearest tube station, and I'm not going to do it in the rain with a 7-year-old and my shopping and my bag for work. I'm not going to do it. Neither am I going to get on a bike either. So it is essential. I think that what this shows is that when you try and manipulate a market by forcing people into decisions via incentives and taxes, it doesn't work. Like the Betamax and the VHS, let the market decide, let them choose what they want.
But we also need to be honest about the impact that cars have had on our lives. Yes, they have been incredibly freeing in many ways, but they have completely changed childhood. The reason that children don't play out on the streets anymore is traffic. Number one.
They're noisy, they're ugly, and they're bad for the environment, yes. And those things are important. Like, it would be better if fewer people drove and if people drove a bit less. And so I'm not in favour of some hardline ban or saying you can't drive or banning petrol cars. But we should be using the tax system, and we already do this, to nudge people in the direction of driving less.
This is all
and by the way, one great...
All so good and well, but, drivers are taxed through the roof as it is. It's a lifeline to...
Well, hang on a minute.
A place like London, if you live on the outskirts and you've got to drive into work every day, you pay the Sadiq Khan's ULEZ fine on top of that, which is, I don't think has had much impact on making people's lungs healthy because the roads are still chock-a-block. But
it has made a difference to air quality in London.
Well, we can't build new railways in this country. We've been talking about HS2 for the best part of 15 years now. We can't build railways. Bus fares keep going up. Train fares keep going up. Tube fares going up. What's the point? People will go, well, I'd rather drive.
So I drove into town the other night to go to a lecture straight from work. I paid £15 for the congestion charge, which is going up to 18 in January. No, massive jump, way above inflation. I paid £10 an hour to park and my petrol. So it came to at least £45, probably 50. I still did it.
But you could have got the tube, Renee.
No.
You could have done.
I live so far. I came from work. I had to be there at a time. I had to drop Alice off somewhere on the way. I then have to go back to my house, park and walk to the tube for 20 minutes in the rain. No, not doing it, Andy. Don't want to do it, not doing it.
That's fine, but then you pay to park.
But no,
that's your choice.
Congestion, it's not changing people's habits.
The market decided that you would pay £15 to park, and guess what you did?
It paid 50. I paid 50.
So you still paid it?
Made that choice, that was Andy's point.
Yeah. I still made it. And people will make it. People will drive.
Right, listen, you two, we haven't got long because in the next hour, I want to talk to you both about whether you think Donald Trump should be president of Europe.
Okay, yeah, that seems like a sensible conversation. Let's do it.
No, I think it's going to be really good. We should invite him over here. Let's get Ben Leo and Bev Turner to start a campaign to bring Donald Trump over.
Oh, my God.
He can be president of Britain first, have
The best president.
The best president. Yeah, it is really, isn't it? All right, thank you two. Very, very good. Here's your 60-second news update with Lewis Mackenzie.
Thank you very much. Good morning. It's the headlines from the GB Newsroom. The Armed Forces Minister Al Khans says the UK is rapidly developing plans to prepare for war. This comes as NATO chief Mark Rutte says Europe must prepare for war with Russia, urging member states to boost defence spending.
We are Russia's next target. And we are already in harm's way.
The Office for National Statistics has revealed the economy shrank by 0.1% this October, while economists expected it to grow. where Streeting says a surge in so-called superflu cases will present the NHS with a challenge unlike any since the pandemic. The number of patients in hospitals with influenza has risen more than 50% in the past week. And if you want to attend next year's World Cup final, well, you'll need to start saving now, as the cheapest tickets are more than £3,000. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. More of me in half an hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Well, up next, there's been a huge victory for fishermen in Derbyshire, and GB News played a little part in it too. We'll give you all the details very shortly.
Morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A grey day for a large part of England, but elsewhere we should see some spells of sunshine, a few showers into northwest Scotland, particularly this afternoon. Now, we do start fairly dull in this zone. There's a line of rain and drizzle from northeast England down across the Midlands into East Wales and parts of central southern England. That's moving away, so parts of Wales turning a bit brighter. Good spells of sunshine for Northern Ireland and much of Scotland. As I mentioned, a few showers in the far northwest. Some of that patchy rain getting to Lincolnshire down to the home counties by the afternoon. Still quite mild here. Elsewhere, temperatures close to average, 7 to 10 degrees, but probably feeling a bit fresher than recent days. But at least there should be quite a bit of sunshine this afternoon. That sunshine will turn into clear skies through the night. Staying fairly overcast, though, for East Anglia and the southeast. Some rain and drizzle here for the evening rush hour, but elsewhere, most places dry and clear, bar those showers getting into northwest Scotland. With the clear skies, though, temperatures will be falling away. A colder night tonight than many of us have been used to. The rain and drizzle over eastern parts of England will slowly fizzle out through the evening, so generally becoming dry. A few more of those showers getting into western Scotland, maybe the odd one for Northern Ireland too, but many areas dry and clear. Might turn a bit misty through the night across southern counties of England, one or two fog patches, and certainly a colder night. And yes, there may even be some pockets of frost across parts of the south to start Saturday morning. A chilly start then, again, certainly compared to many mornings so far this month, but a bright, fine day for most of England and Wales tomorrow. There'll be some winter sunshine around. Mist and fog may take a few hours to clear in the south. For Scotland, though, as you can see, we are looking at more rain coming in, and that rain also slowly creeping its way into Northern Ireland. That rain likely to turn heavy and more persistent as we go through Saturday night and into Sunday, and push a little further south into parts of Wales too. Bye for now.
Thank you, Britain, for our more than 2 million YouTube subscribers and more than 2 billion views. That is Britain watching, sharing and making its voice heard louder than ever before.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The M90 between Junction 3 and Junction 2 is facing delays due to a broken down vehicle. In Hertfordshire, there is a road collision on the M25 anti-clockwise between Junction 17 and Junction 16, resulting in 2-hour delays. A vehicle fire on the M4 eastbound between Junction 17 and Junction 16 has one lane closed and is expected to clear by afternoon. And on the trains, East Midlands Railway reports disruptions between Norwich and Ely, while the Elizabeth line faces delays between London Paddington and Heathrow Airport or Reading. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Alex and Miriam. Just a reminder, friends of GB News can vote in today's You Decide poll for free by scanning the QR code now. And with the new reports revealing half of secondary school pupils avoiding school due to anxiety exams, not having friends and the fear of failure.
We're asking, are schools too soft on attendance? Yes or no?
David says, now many teachers are woke DEI people who think they know what's best for children and ignore the parents and what they want.
Heather says, I don't think schools are soft. My son's school sends letters and the council issues fines for poor attendance. It's a parenting issue. But do let us know what you think. Scan that QR code now if you want to become a friend of GB News for free. Here's how.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
OK, well, a story we've spoke about here on GB News before, anglers in Derbyshire look set to win their fight to return to Wingerworth Lido. I hope I've got that right, after councillors moved to reverse what had effectively become a fishing ban.
Well, the Labour-run council's scrutiny committee has recommended a temporary lease allowing fishing while long-term plans for the site are developed.
We're joined now by Director of External Affairs of the Countryside Alliance, Mo Metcalfe-Fisher. Mo, pleasure to have you back. We spoke about this story months ago now in the summer. You've had a victory by the sounds of it. Tell us more.
It looks like it's some really good news. It's quite rare.
Yeah.
We've got some good
We
news.
do love to hear good news every now and then, Mo.
Well, GB News has been up there. They've been to the Wingerworth Lido. Anna Riley, your fantastic correspondent, was up there. She met my friend Big Duff's James Duffy, who's a local angler, big TikTok angling sensation, and that's his local lake. And the Labour Council there, very suddenly, banned angling. Threatening fines of over like £2,000 for people that didn't do it. Why? To create a biodiversity hub. But no one actually knows what a biodiversity hub is. But what we do know is before they banned angling, it was a biodiversity hub, thanks to angling.
And the consequences of banning the angling, what sort of things did local residents see around? Because I think this was quite shocking. You were telling me some of the stories. I was like, oh, my goodness. What sort of stuff were local residents encountering?
Well, there was concerns over just general cleanliness around the Lido. I mean, what people don't always get is that anglers are kind of a watchful eye on the water. They're there literally 24/7. I mean, they can be there overnight, early in the morning. So they're there just watching for changes in the water. You know, there were dead fish floating up, and obviously an angler would spot that and get it out and take action. But obviously without them around the lake, these sorts of things can go amiss. They're also there to deter antisocial behaviour as well. We do have a problem on our waters with poaching, illegal poaching, and anglers are there to basically warn those people off.
Yeah.
And so when you take away anglers for some bogus, ridiculous reason like they did in Wingerworth, you were depriving the lake of its true friend and ally.
It's a bit of a generalisation, perhaps, but Labour are not a friend of countryside sports. We saw what the Blair government did to fox hunting. I certainly remember when I was an MP, I had a big rural patch in my constituency. You know, lots of problems with complaints about perfectly legitimate countryside pursuits. Do you think this is part of that same agenda, that it's a countryside sport, therefore they don't like it and want to shut it down?
I really hope not. You know, there are millions of anglers. It would be a really stupid thing to make a national policy of going after angling. I think that the Labour Party just needs to drop their obsession with these issues, you know, hunting, shooting, fishing, focus on actually addressing real issues for rural people. You know, they've got 100 MPs now in rural areas. Yeah. You'd think that they'd want to reset their relationship with the countryside. There was a lot of goodwill going into the last general election, but yet we're reading headlines about angling bans, you know, wanting to waste hundreds of more hours on talking about trail hunting again. We've got this shooting, like a shotgun licensing consultation coming down the line. You know, what is going on? Can we please just reset the conversation and do something good for the countryside?
Yeah, Mo, this is a real politicisation of the countryside and rural areas. Is this because the left wing of the country are now moving into this green territory? They're sort of trying to, particularly Labour Party, get a big threat by the Green Party, at the moment at least. Is this what we're seeing? And David Cameron, even with the Conservative Party, started moving conversations to the countryside, to the environment. Are we just getting too involved politically politically with this stuff and things that we don't particularly understand very well. Politicians don't understand very well, at least.
Well, it's just extremely bad politics. And actually, if anyone wanted to take the time to look into it from Labour HQ, they'd know that shooting, hunting and fishing do a huge amount to help conservation, far more than a lot of people that sat on Twitter moaning all the time. You know, they put in this stuff usually at their own expense. You know, particularly shooting. I mean, we're talking so much money pumped into moorland areas, for example. I don't like the politicisation of our countryside, but as I say, when the Labour Party are churning out policies like trail hunt bans, you know, shotgun restrictions and all this stuff, it's fueling this narrative which is developing, which is they are leading a war on the countryside, and they should desperately want to move away from that.
Totally agree. Mo Metcalfe-Fisher, thank you so much for joining us. Come back when you've got some more good news. Or if you've got some bad news, let's try and turn it into good news. We will. So far, we'll claim a slight little victory. It was great.
GBNews.
Well, it's a pleasure. We love the countryside. Our viewers love the countryside, and we want to do our best to protect her. Thanks for coming in and updating us on that story, Mo.
Thank you, Mo. And Alex, I do remember when I was an MP speaking to one of the landowners who did have some grouse shooting moors. And the next door land was owned by the National Trust, and they'd gone for the whole rewild. And they kept asking him, how come you have more biodiversity? How come you have fewer wildfires? Because the land is actually managed, and this is the way to do it.
It's common sense.
Sometimes the old ways are the best.
We sometimes just forget common sense used to exist. I don't know where it all went, but there we go. Yeah, bring back common sense. Yeah, there you go. That's a good line for the next president of Britain, Donald Trump. Moving on, though. Right now, in the House of Lords, they are scrutinising the assisted dying bill. We'll bring you any developments. But up next...
Pub bosses are petrified after the budget. Find out what they're demanding from the government.
And if you're in search of some holiday sun, here is the forecast for some of our top European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
After some recent downpours, the eastern Mediterranean is turning a lot drier and brighter through the weekend. Meanwhile, off the west coast of Africa, some rain will be drifting southwards, so it could be quite showery in the Canaries on Saturday. Some showers also likely over the Balearics, particularly for Ibiza. Largely fine for Italy, and some sunshine returning to Greece, although with the breeze coming down from the north, it'll stay fairly cool here. We should see the sunny skies returning to Tenerife through Sunday and Monday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 12 minutes to 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Alex and Miriam.
Some breaking news for you. Scottish actor and comedian Stanley Baxter has died at the age of 99. We'll have more reaction, of course, here on GB News.
Well, moving on now, pub industry leaders say they're petrified that tax hikes announced in the budget will trigger mass closures and job losses, warning thousands of venues could disappear without urgent support.
Well, they're urging the government to introduce a 30% pub-specific business rates relief to stop pubs shutting and protect jobs.
Well, we're joined now by the CEO of the Beer and Pub Association, Emma McClarkin. Emma, good morning. Thank you for joining us on the show. Emma, I understand that in the lead-up to the budget, pubs thought they would be in line for some sort of relief from Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor. That hasn't transpired, has it? Tell us what's happened.
Well, indeed, the Labour government came to the election with a 5-point pledge to support pubs. They then had a very difficult budget for us last year, which added in 650 million. But they promised us that was once in a generation and that the next budget, the business rates would be reset for pubs for the long term. But we've seen actually out of this last budget, 550 million added in. And as you say, it's left publicans petrified. They're really distressed about whether they can afford to cover these bills, keep their doors open, or even a roof above their head, as it's many of their homes. So we are asking the government for this urgent action to come up with a pub-specific relief to support these pubs. Without it, we could lose the equivalent of around 15,000 jobs due to the tax increases that they put through.
And Emma, what's the knock-on consequence of the government not providing relief to you, and of course additional taxation? What is it that publicans are staring down the barrel of here?
We know that livelihoods are at risk, jobs are at risk, as I say, is the equivalent of 15,000 jobs. But we already know that pubs have been closing in 2025 at a rate of 1 a day. And we already predicted pre-budget that 2,000 pubs could close in 2026. And we are worried that that figure could get even higher if we do not get this urgent support. People are really distressed. And not only the publicans, communities are worried about losing that asset. It is so vital for them. The only hub that they have, the beating heart of the high street, and the only place they can connect in their towns and villages. So we really need the government to recognise the role that we play, not only economically, but also socially to this country.
Have you had any indication that the government is listening, that they potentially might U-turn? I mean, this would be an enormous political headache for them if many thousands of pubs were to collapse.
Well, that is a crisis, and we are trying to wake them up to this crisis. We met earlier this week with the Exchequer Secretary, Dan Tomlinson. We had an emergency summit in London of all the pub leaders, and the brewers were there as well, very supportive of pubs getting this pub-specific relief, and we hope they'll take action. They say that they're listening, but it's action we really need to see now. And we stand ready at the British Beer and Pub Association to work with the government in collaboration to find a solution for what is part of a British institution in the Great British Pub. It's part of our culture, our society. It is the only place that we can come together, and we really want to do that ahead of Christmas so we can all go confidently into the new year knowing that our locals will still be there.
Emma, one of our viewers has said this. Darren says, I think every pub should now go to war with Labour and ban Labour councillors and MPs from their pubs. It's publicans' right to refuse anyone they wish. Do you think you need to perhaps get a little bit more politically aggressive with the government at this point in time? What do you make of that idea?
know that many publicans are extremely angry, and some of them have actually put a ban of Labour MPs in place in their venues. But we want to have a dialogue with the government. We want to find a solution for the sector. We believe that they have misled us into believing that we were getting a good budget and a good deal, but we will actually see rates bills going up, wages bills going up, beer duty going up. The cost of a pint will follow very shortly, and we want to work with the government to say, you've got to lean into pubs. We are so unique and important to our society, and you can do something that really is meaningful, but you have to work with us.
I mean, one of the problems that pubs are facing, and a lot of hospitality businesses, is this rise in the minimum wage, particularly for youngest workers. Over the years, since the minimum wage has risen quite substantially, have you seen a decline in the number of young people offered work in businesses like yours?
Many businesses are taking very tough decisions after the 2024 budget about how many jobs that they could create, whether they reduce the hours. And we know that already pubs are looking at closing their doors on certain days of the week, reducing hours, reducing staff, not making any new hires. And we actually already employ 49% of our workforce is under the age of 25. Most people have their first job in a pub, and that's their first experience of working life. And we can create great pathways for our young people. But at the moment, the cost of employing young people is very, very prohibitive. The wages bill this year going up 275 million, and that's only our estimation of that. And of course, this is making businesses make difficult decisions about who they hire and who they can afford to hire. And so we want this government to understand that we want to create these new opportunities. It's the only way we can grow as...
Ooh. We seem to have lost Emma there. She's frozen, sadly. But it's tragic to think that these pubs might close and that they had no inclination of what was coming in the budget. No, I think many of us felt misled, as Emma said, but there we go. Well, still ahead, 2 weeks after the budget, is the economy now headed for a Rachel Reeves recession? Can it be avoided? Of course, many will say that it's not looking very good, is it? Well, we'll find out shortly. This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A grey day for a large part of England, but elsewhere we should see some spells of sunshine, a few showers into northwest Scotland, particularly this afternoon. Now, we do start fairly dull in this zone. There's a line of rain and drizzle from northeast England down across the Midlands into East Wales and parts of central southern England. That's moving away, so parts of Wales turning a bit brighter. Good spells of sunshine for Northern Ireland and much of Scotland. As I mentioned, a few showers in the far northwest. Some of that patchy rain getting to Lincolnshire down to the home counties by the afternoon. Still quite mild here. Elsewhere, temperatures close to average, 7 to 10 degrees, but probably feeling a bit fresher than recent days. But at least there should be quite a bit of sunshine this afternoon. That sunshine will turn into clear skies through the night. Staying fairly overcast, though, for East Anglia and the southeast. Some rain and drizzle here for the evening rush hour, but elsewhere, most places dry and clear, bar those showers getting into northwest Scotland. With the clear skies, though, temperatures will be falling away. A colder night tonight than many of us have been used to. The rain and drizzle over eastern parts of England will slowly fizzle out through the evening, so generally becoming dry. A few more of those showers getting into western Scotland, maybe the odd one for Northern Ireland too, but many areas dry and clear. Might turn a bit misty through the night across southern counties of England, 1 or 2 fog patches, and certainly a colder night. And yes, there may even be some pockets of frost across parts of the south to start Saturday morning. A chilly start then, again, certainly compared to many mornings so far this month, but a bright, fine day for most of England and Wales tomorrow. There'll be some winter sunshine around. Mist and fog may take a few hours to clear in the south. For Scotland, though, as you can see, we are looking at more rain coming in, and that rain also slowly creeping its way into Northern Ireland. That rain likely to turn heavy and more persistent as we go through Saturday night and into Sunday, and push a little further south into parts of Wales too. Bye for now.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to become our biggest cash prize winner to date. £85,000 in totally tax-free cash could be making its way from our bank account to yours. It would be like having over £7,000 per month extra to play with each month for a whole year. That could be you, safe in the knowledge that 2026 is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Yes, it's me. Hello. Good morning. It's almost 11 o'clock on Friday, the 12th of December. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with a very cheery Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
Well, someone's got to be happy because the Labour Party not having all that much success in fixing our economic foundations. Take a listen.
Benefits of investment and growth must be built and felt in every part of our United Kingdom.
Is it going to be a recession? Because breaking this morning, the UK economy contracted for the second month running in October. It's not looking good, is it?
Well, this is a government that said that growth was their #1 mission. They've had a year and a half in office, and at the moment, we're not seeing much of it at all.
We are Russia's next target. And we are already in harm's way.
Well, that's the NATO chief Mark Rutte, who's warned Europe to prepare for war with Russia. As our Armed Forces Minister says, we need to stop relying on the US for our defence. And speaking of America,
the European nations are reporting that your president might as well be the leader of the European nations also. They listen to us and they respect us like they've never respected us before.
well, would you want the US President Donald Trump to lead Europe? Alex thinks that he'd do a good job.
It would be a fantastic president of Europe. GB News polling shows the public want violent, illegal migrants kicked out of the country to keep women safe. Sounds like common sense, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Have Brits finally had enough?
Alex, I'm sure Trump had his tongue firmly in his cheek when he suggested that he should lead Europe. Well, I hope he did. But it was interesting. Last week, I interviewed Balázs Orbán, who is the Hungarian Prime Minister's political chief of staff. And I was asking him about the Hungarians' attitude to the EU, because the Hungarians have been quite rebellious against Brussels on immigration and various other things. But he made the point that actually in Central Europe, fully dependent on the surrounding countries for trade and all those other things, the Hungarians need to be in the EU.
Yes.
They just want a reformed EU.
Yeah, well, they want it to be a trading bloc, which is what it should be. Why do they have to have all this political nonsense around it? There was reports the other week that they're going to be fining countries again, more of them, that don't take in illegal migrants. Surely that should be down to the sovereign nation to decide, not the bureaucracy superstate that is the EU. And actually, if anyone's going to clean up that act, it's going to be Donald Trump. He'd come in and rip it to shreds, wouldn't he? It would be fantastic. Could you imagine the face of those lefties losing it over a president of Europe, Donald Trump? I think it would be glorious.
I think he'd just put it up for sale, quite frankly. Try and strike a deal. Which country do you think would fetch the highest price?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think many of them fetch a high price at the moment. Maybe Italy. They seem to be on the up and up.
Yeah, they seem to be on the up, although they're struggling with terribly low birth rates. Not going to be many Italians left in a couple of generations' time.
Or maybe France under Jordan Bardella's presidential
that could be a good partnership.
Premiership. It could be. There we go. What do you think? gbnews.com/your say. Before we get cracking, here's your news with Lewis Mackenzie.
Alex, Miriam, thank you very much. Good morning. It's just after 11 o'clock. Here are your latest GB News headlines. The Armed Forces Minister says the UK is rapidly developing plans to prepare for war. Al Khan says the shadow of war is knocking on Europe's door once more. That's the reality. We've got to be prepared to deter it. This comes as NATO chief Mark Rutte told allies yesterday that Europe must be ready for itself for a confrontation with Russia on the kind of scale our grandparents and great-grandparents endured.
We are Russia's next target. And we are already in harm's way. I fear that too many are quietly complacent. Too many don't feel the urgency. And too many believe that time is on our side.
The UK's economy unexpectedly shrank in October. The Office for National Statistics says the economy contracted by 0.1%, while economists had expected it to grow by 0.1%. The ONS also added that over the 3 months to the end of October, the economy also shrank by 0.1% as manufacturing output fell and services growth stalled. West Streeting says a surge in so-called superflu cases will present the NHS with a challenge unlike any it has seen since the pandemic. The Health Secretary says the NHS was in a precarious situation and warned that next week's planned strikes by resident doctors could be the Jenga piece that collapses the tower. The number of patients in hospital with influenza has risen more than 50% in the past week, with officials warning there is still no sign of superflu peaking just yet. Kim Leadbeater says cruel amendments are being used to thwart the assisted dying bill. The Labour MP for Spen Valley and the bill's original sponsor says the Lords' demand for 1,150 changes include many unnecessary amendments likely put forward to run down the clock. She spoke to GB News.
I really welcome the scrutiny that the House of Lords provides. We've got some brilliant people in there, amazing knowledge and expertise and experience, so they've got an important job to do. But we are elected MPs, they are not elected. This is a democratic process. The bill passed the Commons, it's got huge public support, as we see in all the polling. So whilst I welcome the scrutiny, we've also got to be clear that it is not their role to block legislation. And, you know, I'll work with any peers, whatever their views are on this issue. And there are people who've got deeply held views, which I am respectful of. But let's work together. But let's give people the freedom of choice in their dying days that they want and they deserve.
Half of UK secondary school pupils have avoided going to school over the past year due to anxiety. A survey of 2,000 students found nearly 50% missed schools at least once last academic year because they felt anxious, with some skipping weekly or every couple of weeks. Experts warn the figures highlight growing mental health pressures on teenagers and their need for better support in schools. Now, anyone hoping to attend next year's World Cup final will need to start saving now, with the cheapest tickets costing more than £3,000. The lowest price for any England game will be about £165, more than 3 times as much as it was in Qatar. It will cost more than £5,000 to follow your team all the way to the final. King Charles has recorded a personal message about his experience of cancer, which will be broadcast in this year's Stand Up to Cancer.
We are rolling. I'll count you in.
Buckingham Palace says the King will talk about his recovery journey as a cancer patient in a video message broadcast this evening. And finally, breaking news in the last hour. Legendary Scottish actor and comedian Stanley Baxter has died at the age of 99. Baxter started his career as a child actor on BBC Scotland and later became known for his TV comedy shows. He co-hosted with Betty Marsden and was later awarded a BAFTA for light entertainment performance. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Lewis Mackenzie. More from me in half an hour's time.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
But just before I go, here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3380 and 1.1406 euros. The price of gold is at £3,236.63 per ounce. And the FTSE 100's at 9,734 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Hello and welcome. This is Britain's Newsroom, live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Alex and Miriam.
Well, the UK's economy unexpectedly shrank in October. The Office for National Statistics says the economy contracted by 0.1%, while economists had been expecting it to grow by 0.1%.
Well, let's cross live to Westminster to speak to our chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine, bring us up to scratch on the latest.
Yes, well, bad news for the government and for all of us that the economy is not growing. In fact, it contracted 0.1% in October. Experts expected that it would grow by about that, and it's down 0.1% over the last 3 months. Now, we're not in recession territory yet. For that, you'd have to have 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. But certainly, it's not looking good. And of course, this is a government that before the last election said that all the money for what was needed would come from growth. Growth was their #1 mission. Just at the beginning of the year, they said that they were going to turbocharge growth. So, of course, these numbers are pretty grim reading. A couple of things. There was no growth in services, production down 0.5%, construction down 0.33%. Of course, the problems at Jaguar Land Rover, car production started again after that hack in October, but we're not back up to full strength. But also, of course, there was all the speculation about the budget because we had weeks and months of briefing, what might be in it, what might not be in it, what we thought was in it, and then it wasn't. And lots of people will have made decisions or delayed decisions because of concerns what Rachel Reeves was going to do at the end of November. Now, we know what she's done. She put taxes up by £26 billion. So it'll be very interesting to see in the next couple of months whether people feel more confident and start spending money. I wouldn't bet on that. The government are saying they are determined to defy the forecasts on growth. But the thing is, they've been in charge for a year and a half now. The Conservatives, of course, saying this is all of the government's own making. And even somebody like Meg Hillier, Labour veteran MP, chair of the Treasury Select Committee, has said that it's very unfortunate, all the budget speculation. So even within Labour, there are rumblings that the economy certainly not been handled as well as we might like.
Thank you very much. That's Chief Political Correspondent Catherine Forster. Thank you very much for joining us, Catherine. And just a reminder, friends of GB News can vote in today's You Decide poll for free by scanning the QR code now. We're asking this.
Are politicians scaremongering about the threat of World War III? Yes or no? Let us know what you think. We'll be revealing the results soon. I'm not sure what the result of that will be.
Yeah, I think I do know, actually. I think people... Well, I won't predetermine it.
OK, what do you think, Alex?
I'll tell you what I think. I think there is a lot of scaremongering because... one, I don't think we're going to go to war with Russia. I don't think there's going to be a hot war. I think Sir John Redwood was saying something akin to that earlier on. And I don't think we should go to war with Russia, frankly. It would be a disaster for all of us, given how powerful that country is and how many nuclear weapons they have. And also it would destroy our economies and more young British people would lose their lives, which we can't afford to lose any British people at this point in time, particularly with our birth rate so low. It would be a disaster. But I do think that the weapons manufacturers and NATO always need to bang the war drum, because the more money we spend, the better it is for them.
That's true, and cynical.
It is very cynical, but I am a little bit cynical, as you know.
Yeah, but the best way to ensure peace, I think, looking back through history, is to be strong enough that no one will attack you. And at the moment, European NATO countries, with the possible exception of Poland, are unbelievably weak. We can barely field a warship, let alone fire a weapon.
But, you know, I just don't buy all of this.
Do you not?
I don't.
Do you think it's all a big...
Yes.
You know, we're keeping our real... We've actually got an army of 250,000 and we're hiding them somewhere.
By all
Where
accounts,
are they being hidden?
By all accounts, when you look at the power of NATO combined, we would wipe the floor with Russia and China combined right now. And we always hear these very doom-saying things about the state of our military. But the reality is we would still wipe the floor with our adversaries, time and time again, by the way, for those of you at home. And you can feel free to research this yourself. We are the best equipped, and I believe America would come to our aid. They wouldn't want to lose us.
The problem, I think, Alex, is actually not necessarily so much about the hardware, but the problem is we're democracies, and once the body bags start coming back, any government will lose all support, whereas Russia and China are not democracies. Look at how Putin has sacrificed probably hundreds of thousands of young men, taken people out of prisons, forced them to serve on the front line, used them as you know, what do they call it? You know, they're just meat, you know, for...
cannon fodder.
Cannon fodder. And I don't think our democracies can survive it.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you don't know how to vote now, you never will.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And if you'd like to get involved with this conversation, tell us your thoughts. You can go and do this for free, become a friend of GB News. Here's how.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on your say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
Well, it's time now for our Great British Giveaway. It's your chance to win the biggest cash prize this year, an incredible £85,000. Here are all the details you need.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to splash on anything you can dream of. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. £85,000 is the biggest cash prize we've ever given away. It's totally tax-free, which means that every single penny of it will be yours. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, up next, would you like to see the United States president lead Europe? That would be President Donald Trump. We'll be going through that with Dr. Renee Donald Honderkamp and Andy Ursula von der Leyen Williams. This is Britain's Newsroom, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, 20 minutes past 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Alex and Miriam, and we're joined by GP and broadcaster Dr. Renee Honderkamp and our political commentator Andy Williams here in the studio.
Yes, what would you like to talk about?
President Trump.
Yeah, well, oh yes, because I asked you last hour, would you like a President Trump of Europe?
Yes.
Dr. Renee, what would you like?
Yeah, I've already said this on air many times. I think we need a leader who is nationalistic, who takes our country seriously, who is prepared to defend the borders, and is prepared to fight just for the people here initially until we get back on track. So, yes.
Andy, I can only imagine the horror that you must be thinking of President Trump of Europe.
Well, firstly, I'm surprised that any of you guys think a president of Europe is a good idea. I was massively, I was in favour when Blair was up for it 20 years ago, but not so much now. No, I mean, look, if you want a rabid authoritarian who hates freedom of speech, if you want somebody who was convicted if you want someone who was convicted of rape in a civil court, if you want somebody who isn't actually running the economy particularly well, and who might be deteriorating cognitively a little bit if you look at the way he behaves, then absolutely count him in. But I mean, the guys...
Trump's cognitive abilities when we were talking about this with Biden not that long ago.
It's not an either or, it's
everyone
both.
was going, everyone was saying, all the leftists were going, he's perfectly fine.
No, they weren't.
But they
weren't. No, they weren't.
They
circled his inner circle.
Do you know what's really funny is I saw this clip of Ursula von der Leyen talking at this speech, giving the speech to people.
Can you impersonate her?
No, I can't. It would be too boring and no one would listen, no one would pay attention. But it's really funny. She's talking about freedom of speech in Europe, and while that's happening, the camera pans around to this bloke who's being arrested while she's speaking about freedom of speech. You can't make it up, Renee. But look, obviously, obviously it's very tongue-in-cheek. I think Trump knows he's winding people up when he's saying things like this, because he is quite funny and he does like to wind people up.
But it's because he's recognised the mood music, and he's recognised that people are desperately unhappy in this country, at least. I'm not going to speak for Europe because I'm not there. In this country, and I think probably are crying out for somebody who just puts their interests first.
Well, except that he's not interested in what's best for Britain. I mean, you're talking about this arrest. There's a story in the New York Times this week. American immigration are now going to ask for 3 years of your social media records.
It's absolutely disgraceful.
If you said the wrong thing, they won't let you in. And, you know, we talk about imperialism of the EU, but 25% of UK GDP is sales to American multinationals. We are owned by the Americans. They don't care about us. They just want our money.
100%. And I think your point about freedom of speech is really important. Is an absolute myth on the right of politics in this country, where people say, you know, if we want freedom, we should have Donald Trump. Donald Trump is an authoritarian, and that's not a political judgment. It's a fact. If you look at his entire track record, he doesn't believe in freedom of speech. The way he has behaved with the media in the United States, he sues them to high heaven every time they criticise him.
Can you blame
and now
him?
he's playing the left. Yes, I can blame him.
I'll tell you what he's doing. I'll tell you what he's doing. He's playing the left at their own game.
No, he's not.
Yes, hang on. Hear me out. Hear me out. While he was out of office, they tried to lock him up. They put these Banana Republic charges against the bloke constantly, which have all been thrown out now. They used, has been exposed many times, the FBI censored people actively, not just in America, but in Britain as well. So can you forgive the bloke for having to say, actually, the only way to fight these people is to play them at their own game? Because he's realised if you don't weaponise the same tools that they have, you will also be thrown under the bus by the next election. They'll lie and cheat their way, and then when it comes to you doing it, they go, oh, this is so bad. But no one was saying that Joe Biden was an authoritarian with his auto pen.
It was an impassioned attempt. I'll give you that, Alex. But the reality is that, you know, just no, absolutely not. I'm not having it. I mean, by the way, the reason there are a load of charges put up against him while he was out of office is because he probably did it. Like, he actually did. Like, he blatantly. Sorry?
Cases have been dropped.
I know they have. Although he has been convicted of other crimes, as we know.
Whilst he was out of office. I think there was a lot of political attempts to bring the man down before they inevitably he came back. But anyway, let's move on to someone else who's getting involved in politics now.
It's Bonnie Blue, isn't it?
It is, yeah. What do you think of that, Andy?
I mean, this is just... I'm obsessed with this whole story. It's absolutely...
You're going to say something else.
I'm going to say Andy knows far too much about Bonnie Blue.
Who is Bonnie Blue, just for our viewers?
You can explain, Renee.
Bonnie Blue is this young woman who has done everything that women who believe in, you know, feminism shouldn't do. She has let 1,000 men have sex with her for internet clicks. She has set up an internet industry which is making her a fortune of money by these kinds of acts. And she clearly has no respect for herself. And I think she's putting the women's movement back 1,000 years.
I'm so disappointed in The Spectator for publishing this story, because all that is happening here is big porn is making huge amounts of money from women who are... She's made a lot of money, but most women who are involved in this have essentially become enslaved, and huge amounts of children are trafficked around the world because of this industry.
Huge.
And where does all the money go?
Hang on.
But
completely pivoted this story, because this is about Bonnie Blue backing reform.
Yes, but it's about her being given a platform in the mainstream media.
Do you know what I
10, 20 years ago, pornography like this would have been pushed to the margins and highly regulated.
And hidden.
It's absolutely not suitable for mainstream society.
I did wonder, Alex.
A little bit of balance, because I mean, I'm not saying I disagree with you, but for a little bit of balance, because Bonnie Blue's not here to defend herself. Surely she's a product.
I'm criticising The Spectator.
Well, surely she's a product of the environment that's been created by these big online industries. OnlyFans is the UK's biggest tech industry, tech phenomenon, by the way.
It is, and look, I mean, the reason I find, in all seriousness, the reason I find this fascinating, and not necessarily in a good way, it's like some terrible spectacle, but like culturally, socially, and ethically, I think there are all sorts of really interesting questions about this. Like, what about the men who are participating in this, for example?
Absolutely.
But in terms of her being given a I mean, look, you know, what she is really, really good at is garnering attention. And 100% she's a smart woman. I've seen her give interviews where she's brilliant at trolling people, and she knew that if she published this, it would get a load of attention, and there we are.
No, but I think I'm going to throw a different spoke in here. You know, Bonnie Blue supporting Farage in a very old and respected publication like The Spectator, which is now edited by Michael Gove, the Conservative. Is he trying to scupper reform?
Possibly. But whether he is or not, I think giving something that used to be, until very recently, 30 years ago, completely distanced from mainstream life, giving it a platform like that in a mainstream paper, I actually think it's disgusting. And I think it's all very well to talk about how Islam is a doctrine of male domination and the problems that we have with men who don't respect women who come from Islamic countries. The message of pornography is exactly the same. Women are there for men's pleasure. They can be absolutely, humiliated, subjected to violence. That's the message of pornography. We should not be platforming that in a Western culture that believes women are equally
we are
human.
now platforming it here on GB News.
Maybe
we should move on.
Can I just say one more thing about it?
Very briefly.
In terms of her comment was, the headline from the piece is, I don't understand politics and I stand with reform. And I think that is the neatest encapsulation of where we are in terms of support for Nigel Farage.
Maybe Michael Gove is trying to scupper reform.
Dr. Renee, I want to ask you about, I've been dying to ask you this, super flu.
Oh, man.
NHS crisis, I'm so sick of hearing it. Every single year, the NHS has got a new crisis. Something's going on. The doctors and nurses are striking again. Someone's striking again. Just tell me, what do you think of it? Is it just more hyperbole?
Yes. So I've had a look at the graphs this morning, and whilst this has come maybe 2 weeks earlier than normal, its trajectory is no different to 2022-23. It probably is going to peak below those levels, but we are using all of the same language that we used in COVID. We are trying to keep people away from the NHS. I am disgusted by this. I'm waiting for the next headline that says super ninja flu, because we're just ramping it up every day. And I do wonder if Streeting is using this as a tool in his battle against the BMA, and he's thinking that if he ramps it up enough that the doctors will be too shamed to strike. But this is no different to any other big year of flu, none at all. And you know what? Humans live in an ecosystem with viruses. We can't avoid them. We can't send them away. Our children need to catch them to develop their immune systems. We need to get on with life and stop this hysteria.
I think your point about the BMA is really interesting and probably right. Like, I think Wes Streeting is looking at what are the levers I can pull to try and put some more pressure on the BMA to stop behaving so badly, frankly. And, you know, maybe at the margins, some of them are going to be shamed into changing their position, but I think the vast majority of them won't.
And it hasn't been widely reported, but actually one of the suggestions Wes Streeting has made is to increase the number of training places, which is actually a far more important challenge to the NHS than junior doctors' pay.
Yes, and he's also said that they're looking at how, and this isn't something they can do overnight, there are all sorts of reasons why, they're looking at how they can prioritise British-trained doctors and nurses to get into those careers.
How disgusting that you have to say that and preface it with, this is not something that we can do overnight. Why on earth would British-trained doctors and nurses not get priority to the jobs that are there?
But you know that's been the case for a long time.
Problems, though, aren't there? There are two separate problems. We've got not enough training places for our graduate doctors, but then amongst senior doctors, we're having to recruit from abroad because we haven't got enough people in that position. So it's literally a bottleneck.
No,
and one is causing the other.
One is causing the other.
And we have a cap on training, don't we?
We do. It's been lifted slightly over the last couple of years, but there aren't the training places. So they lifted one end, but didn't lift the other end. And I know Cambridge graduates at the top of their class who did not get a training job this year. It is a disgrace.
And then of those people, I think of the students that qualify why is it 69% don't get a job? What's the point in them spending all that money for a degree for us to turn them away, hire cheap foreign labourers to come into the country and deliver a worse service? And then people wonder why the NHS...
It's not even cheap labour, because the NHS is a pay scale, so they get the pay scale.
But it's cheaper not to train them, isn't it?
It's cheaper not to train them, and why it's happening is that those doctors who are sitting waiting for a job can sit and practice and practice and practice the exam, where our own trainees are working and working damn hard. So these doctors are getting skilled in how to pass the exam.
There you go.
Thank you both. That was fiery.
Great fun.
And I think on the flu statistics as well, we need to take into account the fact that the population is ageing every year. There's a greater number of people each and every year that are vulnerable to flu. I mean, the numbers just are going to go up.
And we're bringing in hundreds of thousands more people to the country, so surely the numbers are going to go up.
And we're giving our children a live vaccine.
Well, there we go. Well, look, anyway, thank you very much.
For another day, but an important
Dr.
topic.
Renee, Andy Williams, very good to see you both. Let's get to your news update with Lewis Mackenzie.
Good morning. The headlines from the GB Newsroom. The Armed Forces Minister Al Cairns says the UK is rapidly developing plans to prepare for war. This comes as NATO Chief Mark Rutte says Europe must prepare for war with Russia, urging member states to boost defence spending.
We are Russia's next target. And we are already in harm's way.
The Office for National Statistics has revealed the economy shrank by 0.1% this October, while economists expected it to grow. Wes Streeting says a surge in so-called superflu cases will present the NHS with a challenge unlike any since the pandemic. The number of patients in hospital with influenza has risen more than 50% in the past week. If you want to attend the World Cup next year, well, the final, you'll need to start saving now, as the cheapest tickets are more than £3,000. And breaking news in the last hour. The legendary Scottish actor and comedian Stanley Baxter has died at the age of 99. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Lewis Mackenzie. There's more from me at the top of the hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
We've got Mark White running around the studio at the moment, because coming up at noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain with Mark White and Nana Okoye. Oh, you made it in time.
Fun.
Yeah,
I was getting Nana a cushion just so we can be at the same level, you know?
What a
So
gentleman.
lovely. I've just noticed my hair disappears into the tree. Never mind, never mind. Talking of lovely, it's like the Vogue magazine, you know?
Vogue magazine?
We're just falling out of an edition. Yeah, look at them, exactly right.
What are you two
Not as
talking
lovely
about?
as us, though.
Yeah, of course.
Well, look, we're going to talk a little bit about... we're going to have a little discussion about the Nigel Farage situation. Can you really be held to account for something you supposedly said when you were at school, or, you know, how ridiculous is that, and how desperate are those who are saying that? I think we'll let he who was without sin cast the first stone. So we're going to have a little discussion about that, because I think... Yeah, it's a nonsense. I mean... Everybody, just think back to, you know, what you might have said in the school playground, especially in public school. These are, you know, horrific places. Where it is, you know,
it's true.
It's a daily ordeal to survive.
What was your nickname at school? Did you have a nickname?
I was called Tadders.
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 Why?
Which was a sort of a play on tadpole, because my older brother was called Froggy.
OK, that's quite unique, actually. I quite like that. That's quite a good
I
one.
inherited a nickname from my brother. See, I'm not even going to tell you what they called me at school, because you won't be allowed to say that at the moment. You know,
but this is the reality, isn't it, Nana?
People up on the strength.
But this is the reality. Kids say nasty things, don't they? They bully each other. They're horrible to each other. That's the point of going to school, getting disciplined, and growing up and going, actually, these aren't suitable things to say as an adult. And you don't hold people accountable for that 50 years later.
Well, anyway, those who are doing that need to look at their own track record as well.
Sure.
I mean, some of those people from different channels and broadcasters, what have they been put on air many years ago that really wouldn't be acceptable now? So,
well, it hasn't made a dent in the polls, so clearly people don't care.
But I think what Nigel Farage did at that press conference a week or so ago was actually really to the point, where he said to those reporters from the BBC and ITV, are you going to apologise for It Ain't Half Hot Mum or whatever the various, you know, programmes of their time that might have been funny then, but people now, you'd never put that kind of content to air. But no, of course, they had no answer for him.
No.
Of course they didn't have an answer.
They will judge somebody else for their comments, but not
Exactly.
So we've got serious stuff about the economy as well.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen the economy just dip a little, according to GDP, only 0.1%, 1%, but it's stubbornly low. Are we heading towards a reception? A reception. I like a reception. As long as the champagne's on tap.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, look, Mark, Nana, I can't wait for the show today. I've got a feeling it's going to be a good one. We'll see you.
We've already been in the reception.
It's still
going on. We'll be happy to join it.
We haven't even begun.
Right, all of that at midday. But up next, this one's for you, Tadders. According to a new poll, Brits have said enough is enough, and an overwhelming majority of the public want violent illegal migrants deported. Maybe we can get Mark White on the cliffs of Dover with his binoculars, watching them go the other way for a change. Anyway, that's coming up next. Don't miss it.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update, brought to you from the Met Office. Rain will clear eastern areas by the end of today. Sunny spells following in behind. A few showers, though, in the north and west. We've got a cold front pushing across the country. It's pretty slow moving. That's why the rain will linger for much of the day across many eastern areas. But behind it does turn fresher and much brighter as well. So for Northern Ireland, much of Scotland, and then Wales and the southwest of England later on today, skies will brighten. There'll be some sunshine. Across the east, though, quite a lot of clouds still lingering for much of this afternoon and into this evening. We will see some rain. It's fairly light, but across some northeastern areas of England it could linger. Fairly mild under the cloud, a little bit fresher behind that, but you will see the sunshine and fairly light winds for most of us. Now, the winds will strengthen across northwestern areas through this evening in particular. We'll also see some showers moving in across the Highlands and the Western Isles. Some of these could be a little bit heavy. Further east across Aberdeenshire, across the borders as well, it will remain dry and fine this evening. Northern Ireland seeing plenty of dry weather too. A few showers moving into the far south and west of Wales as well as England, but for most of us it will be a dry end to the working week and a dry start to the weekend as well. But the cloud will take a little while to budge the far south and east through this evening. But overnight it will remain largely dry, clear skies for many, and after that cold front's moved through, it will be a chillier night than we've had recently. Potentially a bit of a frost developing, particularly across southern counties of England, as well as some rural areas of Wales, particularly low-lying valleys. It's where we're most likely to see a frost. So a fairly chilly but fresh and bright start to the weekend to come for most of us. And Saturday's morning will be a fairly fine day, but the winds will continue to strengthen across the north and west, and see this rain band moving in. At first it doesn't look particularly heavy, but it's going to linger for much of the weekend. So we do have rain warnings in force, particularly for northwestern England as well as North Wales. So do stay tuned if you're in those areas.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 20 to 12. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Gates.
Well, a new YouGov poll commissioned by the Women's Policy Centre reveals overwhelming public concern about illegal migration and its impact on women's safety. According to the poll, 93% of people support deporting illegal migrants convicted of rape or other violent crimes, and 67% believe illegal migration is putting women at greater risk.
We're now joined by Executive Chair for the Women's Policy Centre, Paola Diana. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. This is quite a damning poll, really, isn't it? Because, and having looked into the data as we were doing last night, across the board, on almost every single political party, including the Greens, by the way, who you wouldn't expect this necessarily from, they all support deportations of violent illegal migrants, don't they?
Yes, exactly, Alex. I'm really pleased about this poll because it reflects the reality. The nation is tired of these borders being open to everyone. And we know that many men who are coming from countries where they do not respect women's rights become rapists and killers eventually, and our children, particularly our young girls and women, are in danger. So closing the borders is a matter of women's safety. We want to change the dialogue around this issue because no one in our political parties so far, particularly the Labour Party, ever put women's safety at the top of their agenda. They prefer to protect the rights of men coming illegally in this country instead of protecting British women and girls. And this has to stop. This has to change, and the British public is very clear about that.
Yeah, they certainly are. They certainly are.
Paola, I'm not surprised, really, that people agree that men who have been convicted of these crimes should be deported. But I was surprised at how many people believe that illegal immigration in itself is a threat to women's safety. The vast, vast majority of Conservative and Reform voters, even the majority of Labour and Liberal Democrats. In fact, the only group that, on balance, didn't believe it was a danger was the Green Party. So that's a relatively small amount of people. If we are so clear now that this is such a danger to women, surely it's not enough just to deport men after they've committed a crime. What are we doing about the hundreds of thousands who are here from cultures, as you've said, that don't think that women are fully human? What are we doing about that?
Absolutely, Miriam. Well, we have to take action. This Labour government has to protect us. This is the time for action. They have to stop talking and pretending to be doing something tough because they're not doing anything. Women's rights are at stake here. And women are threatened every day. As a mother, I'm really worried for my daughter every time she goes out from the door. So we have to change the conversation around illegal migration. Illegal migration is a threat to women's safety. And that's a reality. Data are very clear. I cannot stress enough the fact that cultural norms and religion do not change once these men enter the borders. These men, they remain the same. If we look at the countries where they're coming from, as an example, Pakistan, we know that they rape a child and a woman every 2 hours. And we know that the conviction rates for these crimes is very low. It's 2% for child abuse and only 0.2% for women's rape. And you know why? Because the victims do not go to persecute their abusers. They don't believe in justice. They know that many families prefer to keep it quiet and silence. And that's why also the data in our country, they do not reflect completely the reality, because many of the rape victims, they do not go to the police. We know that.
Is there an argument to be made here? I'm not saying I agree with this statement, but I think, is there an argument to be made that Labour are doing a better job of at least getting tougher on this than the Conservative Party whilst they were in government, where they have at least started some deportations of illegal migrants? They are saying they're going to remove people who are in prisons and deport them. We saw the case of Hadush Kabatu. He was in prison for a few months and then he was deported. That's, whilst I appreciate many people who are screaming at home saying, it's not good enough, Alex, we need to go further, but surely it's a sign that we are moving in the right direction, perhaps.
Yes, they're doing something better than the Tories that unfortunately were appalling regarding to illegal migration. But you know why they're doing this? They're doing this because Reform UK now is leading the polls. So everyone knows that the British people are tired of the Uniparty and they want to vote for reform at the next election. And thank God we have reform, I tell you the truth, Alex, because we need someone to protect women and girls in this country. We are fed up with that. We cannot read the news every day that a girl is raped, that a girl is abducted, that a girl or a woman is killed. Enough is enough. Of course, also white men and British men can be abusive towards women. We all know that, but why do we need more of them?
Absolutely right.
We do not need them.
Especially people we haven't invited to Britain. They are coming here on having benefits, getting homes. You know, people don't mind when they're being invited into the country so much. But as you said, why do we need more of it?
Yeah, they're taking advantage of us. And if I can make this example, would you let 100 men into a school where your child is if I would tell you that 25 of them are paedophiles? Would you let them in?
Absolutely not. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Brilliant stuff on that poll too.
Well, up next, we're going over to Ali Pali, where day 2 of the World Darts Championships gets underway.
Well, here at the World Darts Championship, last night it was Luke Littler's night. Tonight, I'm trying to give him a run for his money. Or I'll be speaking to fans after the break about why they're here for day 2.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
After some recent downpours, the eastern Mediterranean is turning a lot drier and brighter through the weekend. Meanwhile, off the west coast of Africa, some rain will be drifting southwards, so it could be quite showery in the Canaries on Saturday. Some showers also likely over the Balearics, particularly for Ibiza. Largely fine for Italy and some sunshine returning to Greece, although with the breeze coming down from the north, it'll stay fairly cool here. We should see the sunny skies returning to Tenerife through Sunday and Monday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here to GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. It's day 2 of the World Darts Championship at Alexandra Palace, where fans are already packing in for the afternoon session as the former champion Rob Cross takes to the stage.
Well, we can go live to Alexandra Palace now with our national reporter, Will Godley. Brilliant stuff on that very good live attempt at getting on the board there, Will. I'm very impressed.
I was impressed with it myself. It was a bit of a fluke. A lot of people here cheering me on, of course. And actually, I was better than some of the other people who have just come here as fans. Not quite, though, as good as Luke Little, of course. The world champion and trying to become world champion for 2 times in a row, giving fans a great atmosphere last night as he won very decisively. You were watching, weren't you? Elvis is here. What do you think of Luke Little last night?
Fabulous. He was good. He's on form, yeah.
And what are you looking forward to today?
More of the same.
Rob Cross?
Rob Cross, yeah.
What is it about darts that you like so much?
I like the atmosphere, the party.
Amazing, and the costumes as well, looking absolutely fabulous as Elvis. Let's come chat around some Mario bros here. Were you watching Luke Little last night?
We were.
Do you think he has what it takes to become the only 4th person in history to continue and defend this World Championship?
Yeah, I think so. He's very good. He was in the final first year, won it second year. He's got a very good chance of winning it.
And who are you dressed as, very quickly?
Wario from Mario Bros.
Amazing. Well, thanks for joining us. There are so many people dressed as fun costumes here. We've got Christmas people. We've got the 3 wise men here. Lots going on for the second day of lots happening here at the World Champion Darts.
Will Godley, thank you so much. I hope you're having a good time there at Alexandra Palace. That's it for Britain's Newsroom today.
Up next, Good Afternoon Britain with Mark White, a.k.a. Tadders, and Nana O'Queer.
Yeah, good morning to you. We are going to be majoring the show today with these dire warnings coming from the UN, or I should say the NATO Secretary General, about a war with Russia.
And also 1 million more people claiming universal credit. Why on earth has it gone up so quickly? We'll be looking into those numbers and why they've skyrocketed. But stay with us, loads more on the way here on GB News. But first, before all of that, let's get an update with your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A grey day for a large part of England, but elsewhere we should see some spells of sunshine, a few showers into northwest Scotland, particularly this afternoon. Now, we do start fairly dull in this zone. There's a line of rain and drizzle from northeast England down across the Midlands into East Wales and parts of central southern England. That's moving away, so parts of Wales turning a bit brighter. Good spells of sunshine for Northern Ireland and much of Scotland. As I mentioned, a few showers in the far northwest. Some of that patchy rain getting to Lincolnshire down to the home counties by the afternoon. Still quite mild here. Elsewhere, temperatures close to average, 7 to 10 degrees, but probably feeling a bit fresher than recent days. But at least there should be quite a bit of sunshine this afternoon. That sunshine will turn into